Hey everybody, it's Leslie, your school programs coordinator here at the North Carolina Zoo. So welcome if you've never been to one of our zoo classrooms before, or welcome back if you've been to a bunch of ours. We've definitely been seeing some names coming back and back and back. So thank you for coming back for all those people. So real quick, just because we want to make sure you have the best time that you can and also be interactive. There are two different places that you're going to kind of put your information. So if you are answering something, if I ask you a question and you are answering it, then you're going to put your answers in our chat box. Yeah. If you want to ask us a question, then you can put your questions for us in the question and answering. And the reason we do that is because we have a huge team of people that are helping us off screen at their homes, and they're answering questions for us as well. So if you see Wendy or Steve or Beth or Bob or Kathy, I don't remember everybody who's on today. I know some of those are definitely on today. Those are educators also and employees here at the North Carolina Zoo and our Conservation, Education, and Sciences Department. All right. Whew. Now that we got that clear, you were muted on purpose, and we get hundreds of people that log on to these. So we are, when that happens, we want to make sure that there isn't too much noise and you can hear me. So we have everything on mute, and you're just going to see my lovely face today. So maybe some other friends too. We do have a couple people in the back end of this who are handling our, what is that called? The camera. The camera. So if you hear any voices from the back end, that's actually probably Nikki. We also do have Denise and Sabrina that are learning, and a couple other people. So we are very excited to have some of our seasonals back to help us out with this. Okay, now we got that done. So the first question that I have for everybody today is, where are you from? Are you from North Carolina? Are you from California? Are you from Massachusetts? That's where we're in between. We're at Texas, New York. Yeah. Name some other states, friends. Iowa. Very cool. Iowa. Any other cool places? I mean, North Carolina's cool too. So
maybe there's a Wilmington, North Carolina.
Wilmington, North Carolina.
Back here looking like Washington. Old Eyes, sorry.
So it's really amazing because we have tons of people from all over the United States. We've even had people from Canada and other states or other countries as well who log into these. It's been really cool to be able to see how far reach is going. So today we're going to learn all about backyard buddies. And since we all have very different backyards, I'm going to be talking a lot about kind of the East Coast backyards, more specifically even North Carolina, because each state has their own kind of like symbols, different animals that symbolize that state. So like here in North Carolina, we have a state flag. All other states in the United States also have a state flag as well. But we also have some cool animals that are state symbols and that we can find right in our backyards, but including some that are very special to North Carolina that I can't wait to tell you about. So we're going to try a little game. We're going to see if we can figure out some of the symbols or some of the really cool animals that live in our backyards in North Carolina and on the East Coast. And then my challenge for you all is to also, if you can figure out what your state symbols are, because I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but some of them are very similar. So first and foremost, I'm going to bring out a big map of North Carolina. Some ASMR. So, this is the state of North Carolina. It's a nice big map. North Carolina is a very interesting shaped state. It has kind of this long, thin point at one side, and then it kind of has the much wider on the west coast. So this would be west coast, and this is east coast, or to the east. And the North Carolina Zoo, where I am broadcasting from, is right there, right where that purple mark is. And we say that that is in the heart of North Carolina. It's right kind of in the middle, even though the shape of North Carolina is a little bit interesting. So And one of the coolest things about North Carolina is because we are so large, we have lots of different habitats. And so we have the ability to have lots of different animals that can call this state home. We have 3 main regions. We have the mountains, very mountainous, rocky soil, a little bit cooler. We have the coast or the coastal plain, much more flat, lots of nice soil and sandy soil as well, a little bit warmer. And then where we are in the Piedmont is right in the middle, and kind of like the 3 bears, one's a little too hot, one's a little too cold. Right in the middle, we're just right. That's what I like to say about the Piedmont. We're not too hot, not too cold. We have nice rolly hills. We're not too mountainous. But because we have all these different regions, we definitely can have lots of really cool animals in our backyards. All right, so let's meet some of them. First and foremost, we're gonna play a little game. I had to find it. And I'm going to hold up a sign, and I want you to see, and this is even more if you live in North Carolina, because you might have learned this in class, if we can figure out what the state symbol of these animals are. And we're gonna talk about some of them real fast because I have some that I wanna show you. But does anybody know what the state bird is? State bird, state bird, state bird.
Kimberly's got Cardinal.
Nice.
All right.
Lots of cardinals.
Great, lots of cardinals. Good job, everybody. Yeah, it is the northern cardinal. Now, northern cardinals are actually the state bird for a lot of states. And has anybody ever seen one in their backyard? This bright red.
Yeah.
So the males are red. What color are the females?
Brown.
Brown, right? Can anybody tell me why a female cardinal would be brown when the male cardinal would be red? What do you think? How do you think that would help the animal?
Someone says disguise.
Disguise? Who would be disguising? Which of the brown or the red one? Which one do you think is disguising?
The female. Some people say female. Some people say males compete for females, trying to be cute.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Trying to be cute, right? Yeah. So the males are usually that bright color because it is something that they use as competition when they're trying to find a girlfriend, when they're trying to find a mate. And so kind of the more red and resilient they are, a lot of times to the female is like, oh, you can survive being bright red and no animal has gotten you yet, then you must have really good genes. You're very good at staying alive. And that is part of why they also are red too, is because the female, since she sits on what? What does she sit on? In her nest, what does she sit on?
We got eggs.
Eggs, great. Yeah, so she sits on those eggs. She wants to blend in, or, and I'm going to continue talking, but what's the word for blending in, everybody? She's going to continue to blend in, and it makes it much harder for the other animals to see her. And also, if that bright, flashy male sees a predator coming, it can start to fly off and be really bright red. And so that animal is more likely going to follow the cardinal. So it's also a way that they can help protect their nest as well. So what was that word that we use for blending in, our kind of fancy word?
Camouflage.
Camouflage. Great job, everybody. So like I said, a lot of states, they have their state symbol as the cardinal, especially on the East Coast because they're very common. They're called northern cardinals. Now, this animal, let me tell you, my friend Tiffany, she's here in this room today. She's gonna love that I'm using this. She always laughs so hard when we talk about what the state mammal is for North Carolina.
It's ridiculous.
Does anybody want to guess what our state mammal for North Carolina is? And I'm going to tell you, go small. That's my hint for you.
Someone says mouse.
Mouse, good guess.
We got rat.
Rats. A little bigger.
There was a gray squirrel. Gray squirrel.
Gray squirrel, okay. Any other guesses? So our mammals have fur. You ready? Gray squirrel. Told you.
Why is that ridiculous?
Now, the reason, and this is why I always say this story, the reason why Tiffany is always like, why? We have the most endangered canine in the whole entire world that can be found in North Carolina. So why is our state mammal the gray squirrel, right? Here's my question for you all. Do you know what canine I am talking about? Does anybody know and canine is dog-like? Does anybody know what critically endangered animal lives only in the wild in North Carolina?
Yeah, red wolf.
Red wolf! Great job! So our red wolves, they are, and this is a plastic replica of a red wolf skull. They're very similar. A lot of people mistake them for coyotes, and there are coyotes all throughout North Carolina and all throughout the United States. But red wolves are very specific because they are more related to wolves, and they're a little bit taller, a little bit leaner than gray wolves. Has anybody, when I think of a gray wolf, do you think of a really big animal, or do you think of a really little animal, or just kind of like a smallish animal?
A bunch of people are saying big.
Yeah, gray wolves are very large animals, and a gray wolf skull is going to be a lot bigger than this one. In fact, this is a bear skull, but size-wise, that's pretty similar as to how much bigger a gray wolf skull is. So our red wolves, they're critically endangered. Can anybody tell me what endangered means? What does that mean for the population of red wolves if they are critically endangered?
Angela says there's only a few left.
Yes, there is. There's only a few left. Now here's my challenge for you. How many do you think are left? Now this is just in the wild, not in like zoos and aquariums. How many do you think are left in the wild?
We got a couple 100s, 500, 400.
Okay.
11.
Okay.
1,000.
Okay.
25. 316.
So a lot of differences. Anywhere from as low as we heard as low as 11, and then as high as kind of like a couple thousand. So scientists believe that there's somewhere between like 25 to like 30 that we definitely know of in the wild. So there are very few actual wild red wolves. And being a red wolf is really hard because you're a very secretive animal, but you still have to eat. So we're gonna have a little game. You ready? I need everybody to stand up. That means all you. Just kidding. Half of them are already standing. All right, everybody stand up. I'm gonna give you some scenarios, and then you have to pick which side of the screen you're gonna choose. And if you choose the more dangerous option, then you have to sit back down. That means you didn't make it. You ready? So, all right, you're a red wolf. Picture this. You're a red wolf, and like I said, you're very nervous around people, but you really need to find some food, some mice or some rabbits, some delicious food to eat. So you're wandering through, they live in the place called the Alligator River Reserve. So you're wandering through the river reserve and you smell people. What should you do? Go to this side of the screen. Am I all the way? No, there we go. Go to this side of the screen if you think you should go a longer way and avoid people. Or go to this side of the screen if you think that you should just pass right close to the campers. So, the long way or the people way? The long way. If you picked the long way, you made it. You're right, you want to stay away from those people. If you picked the short way, you got too close, they got scared, you didn't make it. All right, you made it past one. All right, so your next encounter is you're very hungry, and you see another wolf, and it already has its food. It already made a kill. It's done its great predator job, and it's already gotten food. And you're very, very hungry too. So do you, on this side, do you challenge that wolf for the meal? Or on this side, do you wait until that wolf is finished? I'm off the screen. Wait until that wolf is finished and then go get the food. So here, we're gonna challenge that wolf. We're like, I can get it, I want it. Or, you know what, I'm gonna wait a little bit. I'm not that hungry yet. All right, so if you stayed on this side, great job, you made it. You don't, being able to, or having to kind of like fight for food can expend a lot of energy and it could get you hurt. So the best thing would be to do is to kind of sit and wait and for that wolf. All right, so our last encounter, you ready? All right, you have it. So you got a little bit of scraps from that other wolf. That wolf ate most of the stuff, but you didn't get hurt. So you've been really, really hungry. You haven't eaten a lot in several days. And you see some deer hanging out. And you're like, oh, it is time. I want to get some deer. I think I can get this. It's a whole group of them. So do you, this side, chase the oldest, maybe sickly deer? Or on this side, do you chase two healthy deer? So kind of an older one, possibly could not be doing so well. Or, did I go off screen again? Do you chase two healthy deer? So if you stayed right here,
Couple olds. Yeah.
you wasted too much energy, you didn't get any deer, and now you're even more hungry and even more tired. You're right, everybody, you're gonna wanna go after kind of that older, maybe even if it's a little sickly, probably not gonna hurt you. So you're gonna try to chase whatever kind of is the least amount of energy because they haven't eaten it hasn't eaten in a lot of days. So being able to get that easy food is the best way to do it. So tell us if you made it all the way through. Did you make it all the way through? If you did, you did a really great job. Great job, yeah. That means you're a red wolf. You made it all the way through. But you can see there's so many different challenges of being a predator and being a wolf. So it can be really hard to survive. And part of the reason why it's kind of good to think in that mindset is sometimes when animals are coming closer to us, they're just they're hungry. They're looking for some good, easy food. And so if we always keep our distance with animals and we respect them, they usually tend to go away. But red wolves, like I was saying, most endangered canine, they only live in one small area on the Alligator River Reserve, which is all the way out here. So we have our state of North Carolina, and they only live in a natural habitat way out here. So pretty amazing, even though we have this amazing animal that can only be found in North Carolina, gray squirrel. Gray squirrel. All right. So what's next? Okay. What about, now this one's a hard one, but it has a really cool story to it. So I'm going to ask you what you think our state, the North Carolina state salamander is. And I will say that lots of states don't actually have salamanders as a state animal, because a lot of times we don't think about them. We're just kind of like, it's a little tiny animal, you know, whatever. But there was actually a girl.
We got some guesses saying hellbenders,
Oh,
which is a really good guess.
Good guesses. Hellbenders.
Like the fact that they knew what they were.
Yeah,
Awesome.
good job. So there was a girl in school who actually went to the state and said, you know what? Amphibians are really important because they're bioindicators. Does anybody know what a bioindicator is? It's fancy. That's some more of our fancy jargon, right?
Some people say kind of. We're not 100%
Okay,
sure.
then feel free. Like this is a learning experience. So feel free to, if you think what it is. One of the ways that I always try to figure it out is it's two words kind of squished together. So bio and indicator. So does anybody know what biology is the study of?
Joe says life.
Life, yes. So life, bio, and then indicator. What does an indicator do? Like my turn signal indicates that I'm turning. So what does an indicator do? It's a weird way to think about it, right?
And Joe says telly.
Yeah, it tells us something. I know you're like, tell what are you looking for? It indicates. It tells us something. So it's something living that tells us about its living area. Yeah, do you have a question?
We
Or-
do.
yeah.
Olivia wants to know what exactly is a salamander?
Great. Yeah, so I'm gonna throw that back to all of you guys. Can anybody tell what a salamander is? It's a type of animal. What group does it belong under? Where's I'm losing things.
It's not your mind.
Yeah.
Keep your mind, please.
This is well actually I have a salamander with me. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring it out. But a salamander is a type of animal. Did anybody get it in the chat?
We got lizard, we got an amphibian, reptile.
Right, yeah. So sorry I'm off screen. Here, I can do this on screen. So a salamander looks a lot like a reptile. It has 4 legs, kind of has that long body shape, but it does not have scales. That's something that a reptile has that makes it a reptile. A salamander has smooth skin, which goes with why it's a bioindicator. It's an amphibian, so good job, everybody. It is an amphibian, and amphibians have smooth skin, and they go through metamorphosis, which that big life cycle change, like frogs. Think of frogs. They're related to frogs, and they have smooth skin that allows them to take in the water around them. And because of that, in the places that they live, if that water is polluted or is just not really healthy, then that animal can get sick because it's actually taking in the water through its skin. And that's also why I'm wearing gloves. I'm gonna wear gloves with all the animals today because we're being extra careful with coronavirus. But I always wear gloves with amphibians. Sorry if I flick water on any of you back on the back end behind the camera. So I'm using what we call reverse osmosis or RO water, and it's specially kind of treated water to make it as clean as possible. And I put that on my hands, and then I'm able to take the animal out. So my hands stay nice and wet, and I gotta find him because he's an eagle. Oh my goodness. So this, I'm gonna tell you guys, this is the first time I've handled this animal, and if I get like really like, that's why. 'Cause it is
No squeeze. Oh, yeah, he is tiny.
All right. So this is a salamander. I'm gonna see if I can kind of.
Here we go.
I know. I feel like I'm on a makeup thing. This is a spotted salamander, and the type of salamander that is the North Carolina state reptile is called, or amphibian is called, or salamander. Excuse me, North Carolina state salamander, because we also have a state frog, is a marbled, kind of like how I just try to marble my words, jumble my words, marbled salamander. And honestly, the marbled salamander is about the same size as this salamander, but it kind of looks like the marbling of a kitchen table or something like that. So this is a spotted salamander. Woo. And oh my goodness, how adorable and tiny, right? This little face. Little face. Little body. Normally the salamander that I handle, the ones that we have had for a while, are eastern tiger salamanders, and they are much bigger than this. And if you can kind of see, look at this neat, let's see if I can get it. Oh my gosh, I'm afraid I'm like gonna break him. He's so little. I don't know if you can tell, but like underneath his body, kind of like right where his arm is, has little tiny little dots on them. So he has these big, large dots on his back, and then he kind of has like little tiny dots on his belly. And
I
my
had a
hand,
couple questions.
I'm shaking. I'm so sorry. Yes.
So I think you might have already answered part of one, that this salamander is a male, correct?
That I know of, yes. And that's because that's what the vet said. I don't actually know by looking at him. It's very hard to tell.
And does he have a name?
Great question. So he does have a name. It is probably one of my favorite names of an animal we had. We just had one of our very amazing zoo and animal ambassador zookeepers retire. And her retiring was her ability to name this salamander. And we kind of want to name our animals after things that we can learn about them. And so she named him Forest for where you can find them. A lot of times you find them in forests, and then under stumps. So his name is Forest Stump. And if you get the reference, I think you'll love it.
Is he nice?
Oh, he's very nice. Now, salamanders aren't really known for being aggressive by any means. They tend to just hang out underneath their stumps in the forest, or stump, and just chew on little things, little invertebrates around there.
And how
I'm
big
like
will
shaking
Forrest-
so much. I'm so worried. He's so little.
And so how big will he get?
This, I believe, is full grown. Yeah. So they are not known for being very large salamanders. In fact, most salamanders are pretty small, I would say. And one friend had said hellbender. They thought the hellbender was our state salamander, which is a really great guess because we do have hellbenders around here. And they are the largest salamander that we have around. And they can get up to 2 feet. So way bigger, right? I don't know if it's
Do you want me to
it's
hold?
so heavy.
I can hold.
Uh,
There we go.
so much smaller, right? But I can go on top of it.
Now, do they
Bring yours
typically
down.
bite?
There you go. Bring yours down.
Sorry, what was the question?
Do they
Mhm.
bite?
So what we say is anything with a mouth can bite, but they don't typically try to bite us. They would try to keep that motion for when they're actually eating. So kind of like how we were talking about the red wolf and how it didn't want to use too much energy if it wasn't going to be able to eat something. It uses that energy to eat. So it's going to try to not try to bite anything if it can, because that's a lot of energy. Also, then it would hurt its mouth. We don't want it to hurt its mouth, right? Oh my gosh. So cute. So, do we have any other questions about
Yes.
Forest?
Yes. So are some salamanders venomous or maybe even poisonous?
So that's a great question. I do know that there are some salamanders that like secrete kind of a mucusy on them, but none that I know of that if we were to try to eat them, which I don't suggest going around licking random animals anyways, but that it wouldn't affect us. So there are levels of kind of like that toxicity, and we have something called like a cane toad that we work with at the zoo, and that would be an animal that I would call the more poisonous animal, because if you were to lick that animal, that one could actually hurt you.
This one, I know it went away. They already answered it, but I'd like to do this one live. How many salamanders are there in North Carolina?
Great question. That is, I was getting there, and I'm glad somebody asked it. So one of the really neat things about salamanders in North Carolina is that we are known as the salamander capital of the world, which is not something I knew before I started working at the zoo. So it was really cool. And that means we have the most species of salamanders in our state than there are species in any other place. We have something like, 37? 37 different species of salamanders that call North Carolina home. Now, I'm not talking about individuals. There's all of Asia is going to have more individuals of salamanders than just North Carolina is going to have, but we have the most species, different species. All right, I'm going to put it back real quick. Any other quick questions?
Do the spots mean anything?
Oh, so that's a great question. Do the spots mean anything? So a lot of times when we think of spots on animals, we think of like that warning color. And for the most part, I would say many species of salamanders do have bright colors on them. And like I was saying, some are able to secrete kind of like, not an oil, but like secrete stuff on their body that could be amphibians, that could be toxic to certain animals. So it's hoping that you will not want to touch it by saying, oh, it's brightly colored, so it probably could hurt me. So it's a way of kind of like mimicking what venomous animals use or poisonous animals use, like those poison arrow frogs and such. Great questions. All right, so our state salamander is all thanks to one girl in high school. I believe, was she in high school? She was in college, so a woman.
She was in high school when she did it.
She was in high school when she did it.
Yeah.
And she went to the state and said, you know what, these are important animals. We can learn a lot from our environment. And so that we need to have state versions of them so that we can get people to learn about them. And here at the zoo, we actually do a lot of research with amphibians for that reason. So very cool. All right, how about our next one? Let's see. I'm gonna go with the North Carolina state butterfly. And this is another one that lots of other states also have as their state butterfly. Anybody want to take a guess? I'll give you a hint. It is not orange.
Ooh, a couple people said monarch.
Oh yeah, monarchs. There are lots of states that have monarch butterflies as their actual state butterfly. Here's a monarch right here. And it is also getting a lot of attention because they are so important and they do that huge migration from Canada all the way down to Mexico. And so since they do that huge migration and it's multi-generational, so it's not just one monarch saying, you know what, I'm gonna go fly all the way down and then flies. It takes months to fly down to not California, Mexico. It's actually laying eggs and then its babies are growing up and continuing that migration. So because of that, we do try to plant lots of pollinator stations for them on their journey. And then also this butterfly. Has anybody seen butterflies that look like this? Let's see if we can get a good, it's not bad.
Looks good. Yeah, someone says swallowtail.
It is a type of swallowtail. Does any, ooh, tiger. Yeah, this is a yellow tiger swallowtail or eastern tiger swallowtail. And there's actually lots of swallowtails that you can find all over the United States. And they are pretty big butterflies. And I think that's probably one of the reasons that we made them our state butterfly, and also because of all the pollination that they do. Now, North Carolina also has a state insect, which is the European honeybee, which is kind of funny because it's actually a European animal. But European honeybees were brought over so long ago and can be very beneficial and help our area produce a lot of food that we made them the state. And a lot of actual other states have honeybees as their state insect as well. But butterflies and bees are all great pollinators that are responsible for 1 in every 3rd of the bites that we eat. So thank you, pollinators. And does anybody have like a pollinator garden or just like a garden outside that they always see butterflies and bees flying to? No?
Someone says
Kind of.
Kind of, yeah. Well, the best thing that you all can do for those animals is that you can research some of the local or native species, so species of plants that are found in your state or your area that you live in, and plant them for those pollinators. And it gives them a place to lay eggs, and then also gives them a place to stop, get some food, and continue their epic journey of pollinating and helping produce millions of dollars for our food industry. So they're super important. All right. Our next one, these are the ones that I've already done, Leslie. So our next one is a very special thing too. It's actually not an animal, but I had to put this one in there because North Carolina is the only state, a little bit of South Carolina too, where this plant grows in the whole entire world. Does anybody want to guess what plant that is? Ooh.
Ooh, Venus flytrap by Katie.
Great
Nice.
job, Katie. Yeah. So our state carnivorous plant is the Venus flytrap. And I don't know about you, and it's okay to admit it because you know what? This is how we learn. But I don't know about you, but when I first learned about Venus flytraps, I thought you could find them in some remote rainforest, in some remote place that I would never be able to see. And then I found out that they are only in the wild about 90 miles around Wilmington, North Carolina. Which, bringing back my map, Wilmington, North Carolina. Anybody know where Wilmington is? So it's not in the mountains. Here's our mountains. It's not in the Piedmont. So Wilmington, North Carolina. Now I have to find it.
Down
It
near
should
the
be
bottom.
way down here.
There
Yeah,
you go.
all the way down here. So it's kind of in that little part that.
Here. Would you like some help?
Thank you.
Send
I
some
need
money
lots of
in.
help. It's right down here in this part of North Carolina. So 90 miles around that. So some of that goes into South Carolina as well. And I actually got to see some of them in the wild, which was pretty neat. There's some places called Holly Shelter, and there's another one, and now I can't remember the name of it, but there are two large places, game lands and parks that are right near Wilmington that you can just see these things in their native habitat, and it's
We got
absolutely
somebody that is from
amazing.
Wilmington, so they can go and look. Yay.
And they are so important, and since they are found right there near Wilmington, it's actually a felony to go and take them out of the ground. That's how special they are. So North Carolina has the world's rarest canine, and we have Venus flytraps that don't grow anywhere else in the whole entire world. Now there are also other carnivorous plants too, like pitcher plants and bladderworts and butterworts, and there's other ones now I can't remember them. But we have six species in North Carolina. But does anybody know how do plants usually get their food? When we think of plants, they get their food from a specific place.
Oh, we got sun, roots, a bee.
So the plant
Oh, there we go.
itself,
The fancy word.
photosynthesis, great fancy word. Yeah, good vocab. But it's from the sun. And they can get some nutrients from the roots as well. But ultimately, when they put their wings, when they put their leaves out, they have stuff in their leaves called chlorophyll that is able to convert the sunlight into energy for them. And also, that energy comes from the roots as well. So from the sun and from the roots, right on point. Now, the thing that makes it super interesting is that the soil where these plants grow do not have a lot of nitrogen in them, which is what they need to grow. They're very sandy, and they don't have a lot of that good nitrogen to make them be able to get nutrients from the soil. And so because of that, they started eating bugs. And that's where you get your carnivorous plants.
So what kind of insects do they eat then?
Great job. Pretty much anything that triggers the hairs that they have on them. They have to trigger at least 3 different hairs at a specific kind of like light touch. And then with the Venus flytrap, it will close. And then they actually squeeze it so all of the juices kind of come out, and then they can eat that juice. And then they open back up about like 10 days later, and there's just the kind of exoskeleton of the bug left. So things like pitcher plants, the bug actually falls into the plant, and there's like juices at the bottom of it, and then that's where they get stuck down there, and that's where they're able to eat it. And one thing that's really cool is, has anybody ever done like owl pellet dissections or anything like that before?
That's horrifying. Well, it is so cool.
It
I
really
like
is.
that. I like that response.
Carnivorous plants are crazy, but they're so cool.
A couple people have, and a couple people have.
Okay, so with owl pellets, I did this when I was in Girl Scouts. Is when I did it most. But is owls can't digest fur and they can't digest bones, so they actually cough up those things into pellets, and that's how we know that they're eating and it's all healthy and stuff like that. But once that pellet has dried all the way, you can actually go through and see all of the bones and figure out exactly what the owl was eating. So this is really great for scientists because owls come out win, everybody. Most of the time. When do owls come out? Yeah, nighttime. So since owls come out at night, that means if you're researching owls, you'd have to be a night owl. That's where we get that term from. But they can still research owls during the day by finding owl pellets and then learning about the things that they're eating. So pretty neat. Any other quick questions?
Yes.
Before? Yeah.
How many bugs could a Venus flytrap eat in one lifetime?
Oh, I don't know. A lot. So we've actually, what I was going with, so you can actually dissect, carnivorous plants and see the things that they've eaten. And I got to do this during a really cool workshop. My words today. Sorry, everybody. I did this during a really cool workshop and with a pitcher plant. And after they had died, the pitcher plant had died, we were able to take the kind of dead parts and prune it off. So that the new leaves could grow and the new plants could grow. And we were able to look inside of it and see all of the little different insect parts. And let me tell you, it's a lot. I don't know the number, but it is definitely, it's a lot.
So how big do Venus flytraps get?
So Venus flytraps, how big do you think they get? Do you think they're as big as this picture? Bigger, smaller? What do you think?
Someone said 1 foot.
1 foot.
Someone said bigger.
Okay. Bigger.
One said smaller.
Bigger, just the same.
100 feet.
So here's the crazy thing. They are tiny. The biggest ones are like that big. Now, multiple will grow on one kind of root system, but their actual mouths that close, they're only about this big, and most of them, honestly, are about that big. So they're really tiny. I know we see these pictures, or if you've ever heard of the play Little Shop of Horrors, you think of these big, giant Venus flytraps, but they're actually very, very tiny. They're so tiny that when we were walking, you could only step on them, and we would feel bad. So we'd be like tiptoeing everybody. We're like, oh no, don't step on the Venus flytrap. But they're very, very small. So 1 bug goes a long way. All right, friends, we got to keep going. And my last symbol, thank you, brain, I'm working, is our state, or the North Carolina state reptile. And this is another reptile that can be found in most of the East Coast. And then there's even a species that's similar to this that you can find on the West Coast as well. So they're pretty common. So does anybody have any guesses?
You already got it.
People got it already. Got Eastern box turtle.
You all know your stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so let me introduce you to my friend Vanderbilt. He is fantastic. While I'm bringing him out, can anybody tell me in the chat some fun things that they know about eastern box turtles? Does anybody know anything about box turtles? What makes them cool or special? Where they live?
Their shells,
What about their shells?
they can close up entirely. The shells.
Oh, for some reason, I forgot Vanderbilt was Vanderbilt, and I thought this was Franklin. So here is Vanderbilt, which I'm going to bring him real close.
Aww.
Does. This is Vanderbilt, and he is an eastern box turtle. And you can see he is busy checking out stuff behind him. He's looking around. And if he was scared, what would he be doing?
Angela says he would be going in his shell.
Yeah, very good. So here, this is what their shell kind of looks like when it is closed up. And there's not a turtle in here. but there's a nice hinge that you can see that actually closes. And being able to close that hinge allows them to pull in their head, their tail, their feet, and their arms and completely hide.
So how old is Vanderbilt?
Great question. So Vanderbilt is actually, he has a really interesting story. Let me tell you the story of Vanderbilt. So Vanderbilt was actually a wild turtle that somebody found, and he looked a little different. Can anybody, just by looking at him, see anything a little different about him? Something that maybe not all turtles have? Or something he is missing?
His mouth.
Yeah, his mouth. Now, he's not making it very easy to see him. Look at that. Oh, sorry, bud. So his mouth is a little bit different. He looks a little grumpy. Let's see if we can get him a good face on. There we go. So he is missing the top part of his mouth, that beak. And so the bottom one kind of grows up a little bit more. And we're not exactly sure what happened to him, but something made it so that part either got bit off or part of it came off to something that happened to him when he was out in his native habitat. And so when the people found them, they said, you know what, we think he needs some help. And so they brought him to our wildlife rehabilitation center right here at the North Carolina Zoo. And they said, you know what, he is missing that part of his mouth, his beak, and he can't really chew up food the way that he's supposed to. So we probably shouldn't release him back because he wouldn't be able to hunt and eat his food properly. So because of that, we chop up his food really nice, and we make sure he has the perfect amount of size food here at the zoo. And he also became one of our animal ambassadors. And you can tell he is not very scared of anything. He's very curious. He's watching all around us. He's not hiding in a shell. Does anybody see what color those eyes are? Oh, we were talking about his age. So because, I'm sorry, I got distracted. Because we don't know exactly when he was born, when he came out of that egg, we don't know exactly how old he is, but he is an adult. This is about the size that they get. So he could be 20-ish years is what a lot of people at the zoo think, but he could potentially be slightly younger than that, so slightly older than that, and they can live to be in their 50s and 60s, so they can live to be pretty old.
So are there some turtles or tortoises that live longer than that?
Yes, there are. So there is those really big tortoises, like all the species of Galapagos tortoises, or like, what are they called? Aldabra tortoises. I don't know how to pronounce all of my species, sorry. They're really, really big tortoises that can live in the 100-something years. We do know for sure that a Galapagos tortoise lived to be at least 170 something. So most of them average in their hundreds, but turtles tend to live pretty long, which is really important if you ever want a pet turtle. Like red ear sliders are very common. They can live a very long time. So that is not going to be an animal that you're only going to have for like 3 years if it's taken care of properly. It could be your whole life.
So why do box turtles have that name, box turtle?
Great question. So why do they have, anybody want to answer that question? I keep putting things down and not knowing where I'm putting them. So can anybody answer that question for our friend? Why are they called box turtles?
Because they close up.
Yeah, because they can actually close their shell up, and lots of turtles can, and most turtles actually cannot do that. Most turtles just pull their arms and legs and head in as much as they can. But box turtles can actually close the bottom shell up to the top shell and become a perfect little box. Pretty amazing, right? That's a really great adaptation to have to help save them. Now, can box turtles swim? Are they good swimmers? That's my question for you all.
Some people say no, some people say yes, maybe.
I like the maybe, yes, maybe. Kind of, I do see a kind of as well. So box turtles, They are not great swimmers. Yes, they can stand in water, but they are not aquatic turtles. They are land or terrestrial turtles. So because of that, if you ever see a turtle on the road, you always want to, if it's safe and you're adults, or if you are an adult, you can tell yourself, is this safe? And then you can stop and help that turtle if you'd like. You always are going to go towards the way the turtle's going, even if that place on the opposite side that they're not facing looks like the better place. They know where they're going. They have a map in their brain. But the best are to definitely don't want to put them in water because they are not great swimmers.
All right, what do turtles eat?
Great question. So turtles, and I think I saw somebody say this in the chat, they are omnivores. So they eat fruits, they eat berries, they eat lettuce and greens, and then they also eat crickets and worms are usually what we feed them. Lots and lots of earthworms.
So why are they not good swimmers? Why are, I guess in this case, why are box turtles not swimmers compared to some of the other turtles that may be
Great
around?
question. So box turtles are not great swimmers because they're not really well adapted for it. If you look, let's see if I can get them close but not scare them. If you look at these nice feet, those are some pretty big claws. There we go. Those are some pretty big claws, and those claws are great for digging. And even its back feet has claws that are more for digging than they are for swimming. So because of that, he doesn't have really webbed feet and hands like most aquatic turtles do. And so he's not able to kind of push the water enough. He also is, his home is on land, and that's where he feels more comfortable as well. But those adaptations of living on land are what make him better on land than in the water. So you might see them kind of walking around in very shallow water, but they're not going to be going and swimming in a big pond.
So this question is, can, I guess, turtles take on enemies many times its size?
Well, so if you think about it, that shell is really good at protecting them, and that shell is part of its backbone. So it is how they are able to survive. It's very important to them. They can't come out of it. So it wouldn't be fighting with an animal that's much bigger, but since it has that nice heavy shell, a lot of animals can't get into the shell to eat him. So because of that, he is very well adapted to protecting himself from larger animals. All right, so everybody say bye to Mr. Vanderbilt. I have one more friend that I want to bring out for you all before I let you go, because he is one of my favorites. And can anybody, is there anybody out there, tell me yes or no, do you like snakes? Answer that question. Yes or no, do you like snakes?
We got a lot of people saying no.
Well, there's a couple of
Kind
yeses.
of.
A couple of yeses, a couple.
And there's a yes and no.
Yes and no.
Biggest things that I like to use this program for is to talk about one of the backyard buddies that most people do not like, and that is snakes. A lot of times, and it's pretty natural, we have this fear of snakes, whether it be because they move funny, whether it be because they're all of a sudden there and you didn't know that they were there, or because some of them are venomous, which does mean that if they bite you and they inject venom, you will get sick. But the good thing about the United States is that we don't have very toxic or very potent venom snakes. So all of our venomous snakes, usually, especially the ones around here in Asheboro and Randolph County in North Carolina, are mostly copperheads, and they aren't super toxic. If you go to the doctor, you'll be fine. You'll be in a lot of pain. It's going to hurt your wallet because it costs a lot of money, but you will survive. So backyard buddies are important. We need all of our friends to kind of live in this great ecosystem and balance the food chain. And snakes are one of a very important part of that. They're really good. Can anybody tell me, what are snakes really good at? Why are they important is another way I can ask that question.
They're good at hiding and climbing.
They're very good at hiding and climbing. That is true.
Eating.
Eating what?
Rats and bugs.
Yeah, rats is a big one. Rats and mice. Sorry, I'm off screen right now. But So they are very good at eating rats and mice. And so we say they're very good pest control. They eat a lot of animals that actually can do a decent amount of damage to your house or your backyard and what's out there. Snakes are very important for that reason. And what I always say is, you know what? I may not get you to love all snakes, but usually I can get you to like this type of snake. This is a king snake. Now, why do you think we call this snake a king snake? This is King Tut, by the way. Why do you think?
Because he's big.
This is about as full grown as he gets. So yeah, I mean, he's not a small snake by any chance. He's all curled up. Why do you think he is a king?
Because they look like they're royal.
He does look royal.
You should give him a crown.
He just shed too, so he's looking real shiny, real pretty. They are called king snakes because they can actually eat venomous snakes. And so usually people will be like, you know what, fine, and I'll have that snake in my yard because that one will keep off the snake that really scare me. But the best thing to do to kind of get that fear, or at least have a healthy respect for snakes, is to learn what venomous snakes you have in your area and how they look, and learn the very exact ways. There's lots of information out there that can help you with that, because snakes are so important that we want you to not be scared of them. We want you to know which ones don't need to be hurt.
So
None of them need to be hurt, actually.
So is he venomous, and which ones are venomous?
Okay, great question. So I would not be, we have very specific protocols here at the North Carolina Zoo as to how we can handle venomous snakes, and we would never be handling a venomous snake like this. So he is a non-venomous snake, but he can eat venomous snakes and survive. So like I said, that's why he's called a king snake. I can only really speak for North Carolina very well. So North Carolina has 6 species of venomous snakes, and the most common one is the copperhead. Now, this snake right here is very commonly mistaken for copperheads, not venomous at all. Copperheads, one, tend to not want to get near you. That venom is very important to them. It's how they're able to get their food. They have a very specific pattern on them, and it is what we call kind of like a Hershey kiss. So it is more of a triangle shape if you're looking at the side of it. And if you see from the top, it's like an hourglass. So where that stripe is, it is much thinner around the middle of the body, the spine, and then it gets wider as it wraps around. And that is something that only the copperhead in this area has for a pattern. Most of the other patterns are something like this, where it's kind of like a big, almost looks like a stripe that's going throughout his whole entire body. Or their stripes are larger in the middle of the body where the spine is, and then get smaller as they wrap around. Another way to tell them apart is that this
Copperhead?
Yeah, there's a
Pattern?
word I'm looking for.
Pattern.
Stripe-ish? Yeah, this stripe, watch my brain work. This stripe actually goes all the way down to their belly. So on others, that stripe doesn't always go all the way down to the belly. It kind of stops in the middle, but that specific hourglass shape is what you're going to be looking for. And there are other species, and there's other different ways that you can learn them, but the best thing would be to learn which ones are you're most likely to come in contact with. And then, if you ever see one and it is something that is making you uncomfortable, you can call people who are experts in that field, and they can usually help you and relocate it safely. Most people that are being bit by venomous snakes are doing it because they're trying to move it or they're trying to hurt it. So staying away is by far the best.
So
Yeah.
Miss Leslie, I just wanted to share this. So Steve sent us a screenshot of a comment that we missed, but
Oh, sure.
so they just wanted to say, let us know that they are very afraid of snakes. We had one in the backyard a couple weeks ago, and after watching your classes, I'm a lot less afraid. So yay!
Oh, what is the
Woo!
goal?
All right, I'm not gonna cry. That is part of why I love doing what I do. So it is very much near and dear to my heart that I was able to at least just get one person today to kind of change their mind, because all animals are important. We need all of them. And these guys specifically get a really bad rap, and they're actually really amazing animals. All right, so any last questions before I let you guys go, before I start?
Trying to decide which one looks good. Yeah, why does he move his tongue so much?
Great question. So he's moving his tongue because that's how he smells. He can stick out that tongue, and then the little particles in the air that are small and microscopic that we can't see will actually stick to the tongue, and then he's able to put that up in something called a Jacobson's organ and use it to smell, basically. And it's forked kind of like how we have two nostrils. So we can smell something on this side more or this side, and we kind of know what direction it's coming from. So he's not trying to be like, all right. I think we're pretty close to time. I think we're over time. So real quick, thank you so much for joining me today, everybody. And if you really enjoyed this, I just know you're going to love our Facebook Lives. And then also we have virtual camps right now for rising 1st through 6th graders. And my team is actually in the room with me today. They're a great team. And we love being able to share our animal ambassadors with you and all the cool things at the zoo, especially since as we're opening up, there's still a lot of people that can't come. And then we also have a really fun t-shirt that if you ever just are having a great time, super enjoying all of our free education stuff. We have lost a lot of money during COVID, just like a lot of people out there, but we made this really cool shirt to kind of support all of our free education that we've been able and have been super enjoying bringing to everybody. You can go to our website if you want to learn any more about our camps, our zoo adventures, or all of the other cool free content that we've been putting up during this time. You can go to nczoo.org/virtual visit and for the t-shirt and more information, and then also our camps for the camps. Thanks everybody for coming out virtually today, and we hope you have a great day from here at the North Carolina Zoo. Bye everybody. Say bye, King Tut. Where's your head?
Just right there.
There it is.